Hello everyone. For this for this first lecture in NCM 107A lecture is all about the definition of leadership and management. Now, when we define management, we have to look at its Latin origin. The word management came from the Latin word manus, which means hand. Now, in management, it involves handling the efforts of people to accomplish desired goals and objectives using your available resources efficiently and effectively. Now, this action is characteristic of management because it comprises of planning, organizing, leading, and controlling for the purpose of accomplishing a certain goal. It encompasses deployment and manipulation of resources so that you'll achieve your shared goal. Now, it also involves manipulation of human capital, which is your manpower of an enterprise to contribute to the success of enterprises. Okay? Now, leadership, on the other hand, refers to the social influence you had on your people. This refers to your ability to inspire other people to achieve your shared goal. It is somewhat similar to management, but differ largely because being a leader involves more social aspect or social function over your subordinates, over your or rather followers. While being a manager involves formality and it involves a lot of a lot of formal control over your employees or subordinates. Okay? Now, managers differ from leaders in a way that managers are assigned formally. Their source of power is legitimate because they are formally assigned by the organization to lead, or to manage a group. Now, managers have a definite function, okay, as they are expected to do only what they are told to do. Managers emphasize control and analysis because their concern is more on the operation of the organization. Now, managers direct willing and unwilling people because of his mandate, and that managers assume responsibility. Leaders, on the other hand, have wider variety of roles. No? They may or may not be part of their formal organization. Now, since leaders are more like social influencers, they are focusing on processing the information and empowerment of people. Now, the emphasis of leaders is with willing, no, willing people. Their direction is or their power, or rather their uh, influence is more on the people. So their emphasis is more on interpersonal relationship. Now, leaders may have their own goals, no, other than with the organization that they are in. Okay? Now, let's go to the different management theories. The first management theory is the theory of Frederick Taylor, which is the scientific management. During this time, it was viewed that subordinates are part of the production process. The human aspect of management is not considered during these times. So if you will notice the succeeding theories, the human aspect or the human element of organizations are being removed. So the first theory is our scientific management, which is developed by Frederick Taylor in 1911. During this time, he was frustrated with systematic soldiering and other labor problems. Okay? And that he argued that there is one way to best solve the problem. Best way to solve the problem. Okay? Now, let's focus on the concept of systematic soldiering. When we say soldiering, this is the tendency of man to take it easy on his work. Because during this time, people are paid with the same salary. Okay? For example, they are paid $60 or 60 pesos per hour. Okay? So if that's their pay for the whole week, for that's the pay for everyone, then there is a tendency that one person or one worker or one man to take it easy because he is receiving the same salary as other people. If that's the case, then he will take it easy, and you call that natural soldiering. But if a lot of people do it systematically in the organization, then that becomes problematic because productivity will decrease. So this one is called systematic soldiering. And this is the one that Frederick Taylor wanted to address. Now, here are the tenets of the scientific management theory. First, Taylor said that we need to organize our work in a systematic manner. He even suggested the use of time motion studies and even experience. He wanted us to organize our workplace so that everything will be in place and everything will be done consistently. In that way, efficiency increases. Secondly, personnel management system should match the skill to job requirements. So you should match what the person is trained for to the job that he or she should be doing. For example, if you use or if you assign a clerical job for a nurse, that skill is a mismatch, no, to her job. Okay? So according to Taylor, we should match this to the capability of the worker. Third, we should have an output-based work compensation. As I have mentioned earlier, systematic soldiering is a problem because everyone gets paid equally. Now, if we base our pay based on our output, then chances are an employee or a person will increase his productivity. And that there should be an interdependence and sharing of workers and managers' workload. Okay? There should be no overlapping duties and responsibilities between managers and workers so that everything will be efficient. The second theory is from the organizational theory of Max Weber. Okay? Max Weber said that there should be a bureaucracy or a system of consistent rules, formal and legalized structure within the organization. The main focus of this theory is to control the workflow. Okay? Control the workflow by constituting the most efficient and formally rational way in which human activity can be organized, and that it is indispensable to the modern world. Now, organizational theory says that there is official jurisdiction on all areas, no, are governed by rules and laws. If we have rules and laws in the organization, and it becomes an impersonal entity, no, which will be followed by the subordinates or the people in that organization. Now, if that rules or laws are implemented well, no, without the element of bias, everything will be efficient. Okay? Number two, there should be an office hierarchy, a system of super and subordination in which there is supervision of lower office by higher ones. So there should be a manager who will supervise his employees so that there will be a hierarchy that will facilitate efficiency. The management of modern office is based upon written rule, which are preserved in original form. Because Max Weber believed that a written rule is important. No? It's important to monitor or to implement rules and regulations impartially. Okay? Now, the third managerial management theory is the managerial function theory by Henry Fayol. Henry Fayol postulated that there are major uh, five major managerial functions that managers should do. It is composed of planning, which is about determining philosophy, the goals, the objectives, the policies, the procedures and rules. No? Even organizing, which includes establishing the structure to carry out your plans. Staffing involves functions such as recruitment and interviewing, no? Filling up the positions. And directing includes human research or human resource management responsibilities. And lastly, controlling function, which includes appraisal. According to Ludar Gulick, he expanded Fayol's work and identified that there are 7 activities of management. Okay? These activities include planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordinating, reporting, and budgeting, or the post-decorb circle. Now, this post-decorb circle is presented, no, as a cycle because one is interrelated to the other. No? One is interrelated to the other. That when you plan, the things that you need to organize in your organization should be aligned to your plan. And when you staff, it should be aligned with organizing principles and as well as plan arrangements, so on and so forth. While the managerial process, which is the contemporary definition of our managerial process, revolves around 4 major steps, which involves planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. However, there are deficiencies, no, in the industrial age management theories. As I have said earlier, the human aspect of organization were being set aside, no, for the sake of improving productivity. However, we cannot deny the fact that human relations are essential in keeping our organization efficient. So during this time, in the 1930s and 1970s, the human relations era started to emerge. Okay? During this time, it explored the roles of humanism in the workplace. Okay? And that it attempted to correct bureaucracy because it does not include the human element in the system. So the newer or the more contemporary theories, which is your human relations theory, involve factors such as satisfaction of workers, no, their inputs and outputs, and the likes. The first theory that we will discuss is the theory of participative management by Mary Parker Follett, where she said that managers should have authority with rather than over employees. When we say having an authority with means sharing that authority with people. Because if we have shared authority, shared governance with our people, the people or the subordinates will have more involvement in the process. No? They become more involved in decision making, and when they are involved in decision making, they are more motivated to implement that decision because they are involved, no, in the decision making process. Right? So the practice of empowering employees is the main, no, is the main concept of participative management. Okay? Although in our practice, in reality, managers or senior managers still retain the final decision making. The idea of including people in your decision making process, okay, is more than enough to empower them. Okay? Now, Hawthorne effect, on the other hand, is the reverse or is the inverse of participative management. In participative management, okay, sorry. I want to correct. Hawthorne effect refers to the effect, no, of a certain intervention, okay, in the management of the management of people. Hawthorne effect says that whenever you observe people, they tend to change their attitude based on the expectations of the observers. This has great implication in management because number one, if we are the type of manager who keeps on supervising people and not and we do not trust our employees, we tend to over supervise them and making them restricted from their movements. Okay. Now these people will change on the first only for a short term, but in the long term it may pose a problem. Okay. Now this Hawthorne effect suggests that the benefit of having a formal and informal work groups, okay, should be considered. Having a formal work group improves improves formal relationships within the organization, while the informal or the social relationship can be improved by 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 promoting informal work groups. Okay. Now, theory X and theory Y theories was developed by Douglas MacGregor. It says that managerial attitudes about employees, okay, can be directly correlated with employee satisfaction. He postulated, MacGregor postulated that theory X managers believe that their employees are basically lazy, need constant supervision and direction, and are indifferent to organizational needs. Okay? Theory X managers tend to develop policies that are punitive or always on the negative. No? Because they believe that their employees will do no good inside the organization. Okay? While Theory Y managers believe that their workers enjoy their work, are self-motivated, and are willing to work hard to meet personal or organizational goals. Theory Y managers tend to develop policies that are rewarding. Okay? So can you think of an example of Theory X and Theory Y managers in our recent pandemic crisis? I can give one. There are LGUs, local government units, who give incentives, no, for those people who will stay at home. That is an example of a Theory Y manager because that person gives reward for good attitudes. But if we try to punish these people, no, because we view them as pasaway, we view them as inherently tamad, we view them as inherently bad, then we are on the Theory X paradigm. Okay? So I hope that example gives you a clear depiction of what is a Theory X manager and a Theory Y manager. On the other hand, there's a different set of theory, which is your Theory Z, which is developed by William Ochi. He said that a person's loyalty or an employee's loyalty can be increased by providing that person a job for life with strong focus on the well-being of the employee, both on and off the job. So the key point or the key concept in Theory Z is that we should provide our employees with stable employment, high productivity, and high employee morale and satisfaction. There should be an improvement of people's skills, empowering them, stimulating change, and helping employees balance their work with life and improving ethical behavior. And lastly is the one that is developed by Chris Argyris, which is employee participation. This is the one that is the inverse of the participative management theory. Because in this theory, Chris Argyris argued that managerial domination causes workers to become discouraged and passive. When you extinguish their desire to decide for themselves, no, to contribute to the organization, employees become discouraged and passive. When you shut their mouth, no, when you do not listen to them, they become passive. Sometimes these employees, when they continue to experience managerial domination, they tend to become more discouraged and become troublesome or even leave the organization. Okay? Chris Argyris stressed the need for flexibility within the organization and employee participation in decision making. So in summary, these are the management theories that we have discussed. I hope you can read them and you can access them through your lecture notes and your book and the ebook that I will give you. Let's now proceed to the leadership theories. Now, as we have discussed earlier, leadership theories are theories involving the social influence of directing people. So, for one to be considered a leader, the first theory was called your great man theory. This is derived from the Aristotelian philosophy that some people are born to lead while others are born to be led. It implies that leadership is inherent, is something that is given at you by birth, and it is your birthright to lead. Right? So leaders will emerge almost magically to take control of a situation and lead a group of people into safety or success. Okay? So that is all about great man theory. Okay? So here are some contemporary philosophers that would tell you why great man theory worked. Okay? So I'll leave this one to you to read. Okay? But the essence of this theories assurance or personality traits will make you better leaders than the others. These characteristics can be in the form of physiological, psychological characteristic, demographic or cognitive, social, and task-related traits. All right? Now, here are some of the core traits and description of such of traits that are necessary for leading people. It can be an achievement drive, no? An achievement drive. Because people want to achieve something, a person with good achievement drive could be a best, no, leader for that situation. Okay? A leadership core trait can also be a good way, no, to determine based on trait leadership theory. Okay? Honesty and integrity is also one. Okay? Most especially when there is a time of so much dishonesty. No? A person with good honesty and integrity is also a good source, no? Or is also a good trait for leading a group of people. Ability is also a good trait, no, to determine your leadership. For example, you have a task, no, in school, and you perceive that one of your classmates is matalino. No? Matalino. So it is to your classmates to be chosen as the leader because he has the cognitive ability. Because, you believe that person has the capability to drive you to success. Right? Other traits include business knowledge, self-confidence, emotional maturity, and even charisma. Right? Now, criticisms of this theory be developed within your trait. Okay? Always a trait that you're looking for when you determine leader. Leadership skills can develop. Alright? Others have, some researchers, no, like Avolio, Walumbua, and Weber, they suggest that last 100 years to determine whether leadership can be actually no, be traced to your trait. Okay? Next set of theories, the next set of theories is your behavioral theory. Behavioral theory refers to the leader's ability, no, no, to treat other people, to treat their subordinates within an organization. Okay? So there are three major types of behavioral leadership, no, based on the behavioral leadership theory. It can be an authoritarian leadership, a democratic leadership, or a laissez-faire leadership. Now, let's break it down and simplify. When we say authoritarian leadership, no, this is the concentration of authority over one group of person or over one person only. Okay? So, authoritarian leadership is singular in status. And that, since this is a singular form of status or singular in status, the control of this type of leadership is strong. Now, this form of leadership, no, motivates people by coercion. No? For example, if you will not follow the rule, I will give you sanctions. Okay? And that's the way they motivate their people in authoritarian leadership. Direction is the form of command, meaning a straightforward directive, no, to a subordinate. Decision making is solitary, okay, and that communication is only downward, meaning from subordinate, rather from the leader down to the subordinate, and that evaluation is punitive in nature as well. While on a democratic leadership style, no, the status is plural, meaning everyone is involved. Okay? The control is lesser, no? Is lesser. And that motivation is in the form of reward. Direction, no? Giving direction is in the form of suggestion and not a command. Meaning, we respect, no, the subordinate's ability to decide for himself by giving suggestions. Okay? Decision-making is a collaborative process, meaning everyone is involved in decision-making process, and that evaluation is constructive. The third type of behavioral leadership is your laissez-faire leadership. No? This time, the control is little or none, and that the identification of the status is collective. Now, motivation is in the form of support, okay, as requested, and that there is little or no communication, or rather direction. Communication, on the other hand, is upward and downward. When we say upward communication, this is in the form of feedback. Subordinates are allowed to give feedback to the leaders. While downward communication refers, no, to commands, to orders to other people, from leader to subordinates. Okay? Decision making in laissez-faire is dispersed, and that there is no evaluation of actions. Now, laissez-faire leadership is applicable for highly creative people, no? Or for leading a group, no? For leading a group of highly creative people and highly motivated people, and even experts in the fields. All right? So here are the positive and negative effects of leadership. In authoritarian leadership, there is high productivity because there is lesser time to debate on a certain decision. But if we do not include other people in the decision-making process, the creativity of the decision is low in authoritarian leadership. While on democratic leadership, on the other hand, there is high commitment from a certain decision from the people in the organization because they are involved. While those who are in democratic leadership, they will experience lesser efficiency. Why? because there are a lot of friction or debates that may occur when a certain decision is being decided. In laissez-faire, it fosters high creativity because we allow the people to move by themselves. But if we do not impose control over them, sometimes for too much, too much of a lesser control, we might foster disinterest among our subordinates. So when do we use? So what is the best? What is the best leadership type that we should use? I would say it depends upon the situation. If your situation is an emergency situation or a situation that requires an urgent decision, you go for you go for an authoritarian leadership. Okay? But if you need to solve this problem that involves everyone and it does not require uh, or is not an emergency, you do or you employ a democratic leadership style. Okay? So it depends upon the situation on where to use. And also the type of people that you are leading. Because some people would not like to be dictated upon. So you have to assess whether they are willing or not. Okay? So if that is the case, then we are employed if we modify our leadership, no? If we modify our leadership based on situation, we're actually employing a situational leadership theory. Okay? Wherein your leadership style should vary according to the situation or the individuals that are involved, no, in your decision-making process. Okay? So you vary your leadership style based on the situation and based on the people. If you focus on modifying your leadership style based on the profile of your people, okay, then you are employing a contingency leadership style. No? In contingency leadership style, you take on the profile of your employees, of your subordinates, when you try to use a certain leadership style. No? When people are new in the organization, they need much guidance. Therefore, a task-oriented approach in leadership is more appropriate for these new employees. As people mature in your organization, a relationship-oriented a relationship-oriented leadership is more applicable or is more appropriate. Okay? So if you try to be more task-oriented, for employees who are 10 or more years working in an organization, imagine yourself being in that position. Doon sa isang empleyado na 10 years na. Tapos task-oriented pa rin approach sa kanya. Will you feel insulted? No? More likely, you'll get insulted rather than directed. So, in contingency leadership, the profile of the person or of the people of the organization should be taken into consideration when taking on an approach in leadership. Transformational leadership is a widely used leadership theory. No? Leadership theory. Well, this is one of your assignments. No? This is one of your assignments with me for this semester. So I leave this one to you to study. No? I leave this one to you to study. There's an activity on transformational leadership. Okay? So I want you to study this on your own time and do the activity that is assigned to you, no? And is attached on your Canvas module. All right? Now, there are contemporary or 21st century views of leadership. Okay? The first one is what we call your servant leadership. Your servant leadership, okay, is a is a is a get away, no, from traditional management, because in servant leadership you're going to serve on the needs of employees. So your focus is more on serving the needs of the people, of your subordinates, rather than directing them, no, and serve your goals. Baliktad, no? The leaders become the servants. No? This, in way, empowers your constituents. No? Because by serving them, you're actually helping them. And when you help them, you're going to teach them on the ways of the organization. And through that way, you develop them to become leaders in the future. So here are some of the tenets, no, or the constructs of your servant leadership. You can read this on your own. The second one is your principal agent theory. Now, the principal agent your orders, yung orders ng leaders or the principal. So for a principal to motivate the agent, there should be an incentive system or a disincentive system for those who will not follow. One of the good examples here is yung if we ask someone, to go on straight duty. Technically, no one wants to go on a straight duty. But if you motivate that person, who wants to go on straight duty, who do not want to go to straight duty, na, mag-duty ka because bibigyan ka ng double pay, triple pay. Will be given an extra off. That's a form of incentive, making your agent, follow what the principal, which is the head nurse or the manager. Now, this incentive can be in the form of punishment, okay, or not giving incentive at all, right? Now, the third contemporary theory is yung tinatawag na human and social capital theory. It says that managers and leaders should invest, on human and social capital of their organization. When we say human capital, this is the collective intellect or collective stack of knowledge, that will help you gain economic benefits. When we improve the skills of the nurses, we send them to training, we send them to further studies, advanced studies. We are investing in human capital. So we are investing on the stock of knowledge, the knowledge of the people, which in the future we can have an economic benefit. On the other hand, when we say social capital, this refers to the economic benefits that we form from social contracts or contacts with other people and preferential treatments that will affect our productivity. So this refers to the connections that we make with our employees. By investing in this social capital, we make them more motivated in their work. For example, in a certain nagpa-meeting ka sa mga empleyado mo, they will be more motivated to join your meeting kung meron kang pakain or incentive. In that way, the incentive will motivate them to become more loyal to your organization. And through this investment in the social capital in the future, it will pay forward to the future of your organization. They will become more loyal, they will become more productive. That's how you invest to your social capital. Okay? Now, emotional intelligence is also an important as leadership theory or perspective. Being a leader, we must be able to understand and recognize ourselves and others, no? Especially their abilities, perception, and attitude. Being a leader is being cognizant of these things. You should be you should be insightful of what other people will feel, what will other people will perceive. No? Emotional intelligence is most useful when creating decisions. Because when you create decisions that appeal, no, to other people, chances are your plan, your decision will fail. So for your plan or decision to succeed, you need to perceive what other people would say. No? So emotional intelligence, no? This theory suggests that our emotional intelligence can be developed by 5 components: by self-awareness, by self-regulation, by motivation, by empathy, and by our social skills. Authentic leadership is a perspective or a theory wherein in order for you to lead, no, leaders must be true to themselves and their values, and they act on them accordingly. So the principles and the conviction of leaders are important aspect or ingredient in authentic leadership. No? This is best summarized by the phrase leadership by example. If your employees would see, no, that you are on time for your work as a head nurse, then you will be viewed as a good and authentic leader. Chances are they will follow that person or they will follow you. No? What else? If you are a student leader, no? If you are a student leader and you are perceived to be a good student by other students that you are representing, then they can say that you are leading by example. You are an authentic leader. Okay? Always remember that there are no other factors that motivate goal rather than the leader itself. Now, here are the 5 distinguishing characteristics of authentic leader. Okay? You should have the purpose. You should know your values. You should have the heart or compassion for others. Having a good relationship, no? Having a strength, having a good human connection with other people, and having self-discipline to balance your professional and personal lives. Thought leadership, on the other hand, okay, refers to your intellectual capability as a leader. If you are a person who is seen to innovate, who is seen to spearhead some new ideas, then you are a good leader based on this leadership theory. Okay? While quantum leadership, on the other hand, refers that postulates, quantum leadership postulates that you will become a leader based on environment and contextual factors that will decide your leadership. Okay? So it depends upon the situation on how you will emerge as a leader. Now, leaders often use power to motivate their subordinates. Now, for them to be effective, they must have some sort of mechanism to make people follow, and that is to use their power. Now, there are different types of powers, according to type. It can be in the form of reward, reward power, which is the ability of a leader to grant favors. While coercive power, is the ability to grant punishment naman. It is anchored in fear. Coercive power motivates people through fear. Okay? Legitimate power refers to the position of the person. Being in position, being in a managerial position is a legitimate power, no? And the most efficient type of power to use in an organization, which is legitimate power. Expert power, on the other hand, refers to the expertise of a person, for him to her, for him to her, for him to let other people follow. Okay? How is it done? Imagine a doctor prescribing a medication to his patient. The patient will follow the doctor because he knows that the doctor is the expert for his or her disease. That demonstrates the expert power of the doctor over his patient. Okay? When we talk of referent power, this refers to the association of a person with a legitimate source, or with a legitimate source of power. So for example, if I say you should attend this class because because I have the authority based from my association with the president of our school. Okay? That demonstrates the referent power of a leader. While the informational power of a leader refers to the capability, no, of a person to become a resource person for a certain group. Nagiging leader ka kasi ikaw mismo ay kaya mong mag-provide ng information to them. Not necessarily your expert knowledge, but rather you can provide technical knowledge, technical guidance to other people, which makes you a leader. Right? And with that, I end my lecture for today. So if you have any questions, you can send your questions to our group chat, to our group page, Facebook page. No? You can access this video in my YouTube channel. If you want, you may subscribe to my YouTube account or YouTube channel and follow, no, for many updates of my lectures. Okay? You can open your modules within this week and download your activity for this week. No? Prepare for a quiz next week. No? And this self-test will be a measure of how well you have prepared or understood our lecture for today. And with that, I end my session. Thank you.